Welcome to Napa Valley Inside Out. I'm Latif Hasan, and I am delighted to be hosting this podcast, shining a light on one of the most beautiful and coveted lifestyles in the world. If you're interested in developing a property, planting a vegetable garden, making olive oil, fashion, architecture, interior design, county rules and regulations, biking paths, art, getting into the wine business, farming practices, the tax benefits of owning a vineyard, or the ultimate private tours and tastings, and all the fabulous annual cultural events we enjoy here, and so much more, then you won't want to miss this show. Every week I will be interviewing amazing talent, vintners, entrepreneurs, leaders, consultants, festival organizers, and well-known personalities in the Valley. They will share their knowledge, experience, advice, goals, passions, and their best-kept secrets. Oliver Colbell of Colbell Snyder Gallery is with us today. Oliver has been an art dealer since 1978, and he has galleries in San Francisco and here in St. Helena, Napa Valley. He is also the band manager and guitarist for the fabulous Screwtops, and he is one of the most interesting and talented people I have ever met. So welcome, and thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thanks, Latifah. It's an honor to be here.
It's really fantastic to have you. We had Karen on the show.
Boy.
And she was just amazing. Everybody
Yeah.
loved her. And you know what I thought was really interesting about the two of you is that Karen was influenced by her grandmother, who was a famous movie star, and she used to love watching old Hollywood movies. She lived in Beverly Hills. So Karen would go over to her house and watch these wonderful movies and the gorgeous gowns back in the day. And now Karen herself is a fashion designer for Hollywood. And you were influenced by your grandmother, who had an art gallery in Florence, Italy. So tell us a little bit about your Italian heritage.
Well, my mother is actually from Florence, and my father was a GI. He was a pilot, and then he met my mother after the war in Florence, fell in love, and then they came to the United States, and then I was born. But when my mother came here, it was discriminatory to be Italian, to be Jewish, to be black, Puerto Rican. So she kind of suppressed her heritage. So we grew up not knowing we were half Italian. Oh. And then until Frank Sinatra came along and Sophia Loren and Gina Lola Brigida, those people raised the bar and made it, wonderful to be Italian. So I was always curious about my heritage, so I went back to Florence in my 20s to, want to see this art gallery that my grandmother had, and she just passed away and it closed, so it was kind of heartbreaking. But I remember the story about her where after the war they were starving, and the Germans ransacked all the food, and they were punishing them for changing sides. So what happened in Italy was all the artists, they didn't know where to go to show their works, and they needed to survive. So they hit my grandmother up because she had a strategic building on the Borgo Ognissanti, right by the Arno River. And they said, hey, open the space and we'll pay you to be an employee and sell our art. So I have all these photos that I was raised with, seeing my grandmother with a little price list, waiting for American tourists to come.
Oh my!
This is crazy. I'm in the same business now. So.
And you're in the same business as your grandmother.
Yeah.
The irony is incredible.
The irony is incredible.
It really is.
So,
and I know you love Italy. You go back quite frequently, right?
Well, I have half my family is still there, and they're all very fun, zany, charming people. And every time I go there, I realize how uptight I am. It takes me about 5 days, a lot of vino, and relaxing to kind of slide into that culture.
Yeah.
So.
And what a wonderful culture it is. Yeah.
Oh, really we have a lot to learn from the Italians. You know, not to be too serious about life.
Yes,
So.
I agree. Now, you grew up in San Francisco.
Yes.
During the beatnik years of the 50s.
The 50s. I remember the beatniks, and then came the topless clubs and all this. Made an indelible impression on me when I was a young child.
In the 50s, the topless clubs.
Yeah, well, the 50s and 60s, They were coming in Carol Doda and the beatniks and all the comedy clubs, and et cetera. So.
And then you went to high school in London during the Beatles years of the 60s. So how did that happen?
Well, my parents divorced, and my father developed Cameron Park, and so I would be kind of abandoned out there in Cameron Park in the boonies, and I went loony And then one day I saw this wonderful show on Swinging London, and I went,
Swinging London.
Dad, I got to go to London. I got to get out of here. And my father was very open-minded and liberal. He goes, great. So we went to London, and I found a high school. And my dad goes, okay, have a good time. He left me there when I was 15. But it was great. You know, I had a great time.
Was it boarding school?
No, I went to a little B&B. These Polish people took me in for £5 a week.
Wow.
And then it was happening. It was a really progressive place.
Were you a good boy without any supervision at 15?
Oh, I had an adorable girlfriend there. Oh my God. It was a great time.
Was she English?
Oh, she was English, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, we used to get drunk at the pubs after school. And,
That's what they do there.
Smoke cigarettes. I mean, we grew up fast, you know.
Yeah.
It was good times.
So how many years were you there?
I was there a couple of years, and then it was very hard to come back, to kind of fit back into the culture, because everything was going much faster. They were more educated. They were further up the curve than we were as American students.
And then you went to pre-med at Berkeley, right?
Well, I ended up at Berkeley in pre-med because I love science, and I grew up with this TV fantasy of being a doctor, the good guy, make money, have the beautiful wife. You know, I fell for that whole program until I worked in a hospital, and then about died from. I was depressed working with, you know, people that were sick.
Yeah.
You know,
I get that.
I would have been a terrible doctor.
Hilarious. But in the end, you still married a beautiful woman. So the dream, half the dream came true.
Well, after I got disillusioned with the whole idea of becoming a doctor and realizing this wasn't the right road, then I went to Italy to check out my grandmother's art gallery, and that's what started the ball rolling in my 20s.
Incredible.
And then I ended up in the art business, and I never turned back. So.
Incredible. So you had an art gallery in Carmel and in New York City, and now you just have them in St. Helena and San Francisco.
Yes.
And in all of those places, I believe from our previous conversations, you've actually designed and built commercial and residential properties. San Francisco, New York, Carmel, and here. And the one that really stands out to me, and the one I remember from years ago when we lived across the road from each other, I used to see the CAD drawings on your computer of the beautiful old stone building. It was the St. Helena Star building, right?
Star building, yes.
That beautiful old stone St. Helena Star building that you transformed into the Colville Snyder Gallery, which is, without doubt, the most beautiful building on Main Street.
I'm proud of it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always been so intrigued, like, how did you know how to do that? Because you had to retrofit it for earthquake too, right?
Yeah, it was, it's a lot when you have to put so much money into the superstructure and you have little money left over for the ornamental factors.
Right.
And so, but I try to combine the two, and it was a real challenge to make steel, big girders work in your favor and how to work around that.
You did an amazing job.
Well, thank you.
Really. And you and your partner, Susan Snyder, have hosted so many events there. It really has become a place for the community to go and to celebrate, or for special occasions. You have amazing events that we've all come to know and love and enjoy. So that must be pretty rewarding for you.
Well, yeah, what it was when I first bought the Star building, I saw all these amazing photos of the community waiting outside for the newspaper to be made, because it was originally the warehouse for the Star newspaper. So I had the big Heidelberg presses, and everybody's waiting for the information. So I saw all these wonderful photographs of people before the World War I, waiting for the news. I mean, there was no internet back then, and you know, being in St. Helena, you were totally like Foreign Legion post number 55 in the middle of nowhere. And so this was a big thing. And so I started to realize that this building has a kind of a community center feeling to it. That's why I kept it open, because I thought maybe the community would want to use it for their events at night.
And you, boy, you've opened that up so many times for the community. I mean, it couldn't be more beautiful.
Well, I think that people want to get together in a public assembly where they feel inspired. And they enjoy the high ceilings and the kind of the nobility of the materials, the stone and the wood and things like that. I think it inspires people, so when they meet, they're more kind of upbeat and jazzed.
Yeah, yeah. No, my God, it's gorgeous. And your art and your sculptures are just absolutely
thank you.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about how you find some of your artists, because I know that you and Karen travel all over the world and very randomly find unknown artists that are absolutely brilliant, and some of them you've made quite famous. So tell us a little bit about how you go about finding your artists and some of the ones that have enjoyed great success.
Well, the question that you asked me is a question a lot of collectors ask me. How do you find these artists? And I always have this running joke that there's this deli I go to in Chicago where this guy gives me a tip. I lose them by then. But, finding artists is actually harder than finding a mate, a spouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you have to have a lot of things working together. You have to have a compatibility. They have to have a message, and there's an evolution in their work. They got to be priced right. They got to be available, and so these are like spokes on the wheel. If any one of these spokes is not strong and wobbly, the wheel doesn't go. So, but the criteria when you meet somebody is you're in love and you have all these hormones working. When you meet an artist, you don't have all these hormones working, But you are inspired by the work, and then there's this kind of dance and engagement. But what people don't understand is it's not as though you find an artist that's ready to go off the rack, You find an artist that's kind of mid-career and growing, and they need the right dealer to kind of relate to so that they kind of are nurtured. They're not only nurtured financially so they feel secure, but they're nurtured that they can express themselves and grow without retaliation, that they're not going to be a failure. And so it's quite difficult to be an artist. I mean, you're really on your own. You can't hide in a big bureaucracy. You don't have the government supporting you. And you don't have this momentum of being a professional like a doctor or a lawyer. You're really on your own. Every canvas you make, you're starting from scratch. Yeah. And you might be rejected. So it's difficult.
It is. My sister's an amazing artist, but thankfully she and so is her husband, but thankfully they're developers as well and interior designers, because I mean, how do you live being an artist if you're not well known and things aren't just selling immediately? Yeah.
Well, most of my collectors all want to be artists themselves. Everybody wants to be creative, and so they're curious. How did you find these people? What criteria did you use to find them? What was the leads? Because my clients are looking all over the world themselves. They go to a lot of art fairs, different galleries. They're all searching too, They're all searching for aesthetic excellence, and they want to take it home and bring it in their world.
Right. So who would be some of the artists that you have found that were not known that are now known because you're representing them?
Well, probably the most interesting success story was a young artist that I met in the Montmartre years ago, walking through the snow in the winter, and he had these little paintings for $100, but he wasn't there, and there was this little red door of a painting of a facade of a building in Paris, very commercial, but it was charming, and I finally figured out who painted it, and I bought it, I took it home, and I put it in my office in my art gallery in San Francisco, and everybody wanted to know if they could buy it. And then I started to think, wow, people love this little painting. So I went back, met the artist, who was selling for like $100 for a little painting then. Fast forward, we started to work together, and then we were starting to get to the point where we were selling all over the world. And we'd have big shows in Japan, the big department stores, and his paintings were selling between $40,000 to $80,000 at that point. And this became a multi-million-dollar program. It was amazing. We were doing hundreds of editions of silk screens, doing shows all over the United States. I mean, it was like a rock tour, going all over Japan, all over the United States. It just grew.
It's like being a singer, and you're singing in the subway, and somebody hears you, and well, the rest is history.
Well, we have American Idol and America's Got Talent now. We have avenues for that. But we don't have that kind of avenue for artists yet. We haven't come up with an idea that works for television.
Yeah. And if anybody could come up with an idea for that, you could.
Well, maybe that's the next career. Let's work together.
How many artists do you find when you're traveling? Do you specifically go on trips, you and Karen? I know you went. What are some of the countries you went to? You went to. Did you go to? Where am I? Cuba. Did you go to Cuba?
We went to Cuba and we had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I had a great guide who knew all the top artists, and I went to their studios. But I didn't quite see what would resonate with our market and our clientele, even though they had really interesting things. It didn't have quite the technical prowess and the strength and subject matter that was going to really resonate with our clients. Our clients are world travel, they see a lot of art, and so their standards are very high.
Right, it's a different type, yeah. And other countries you've been to, have you found any artists that
Well, Karen and I went on a whirlwind tour through Germany about 6 months ago. I mean, it was not easy. I mean, it was whistle stops every day, going to another small town in Germany, going to studios, ceremonial dinners, going through all the racks, pulling out the art, get back on the train, get back in the rental car, and go to the next town. And it was quite invigorating, but it was so much fun because I got to meet such interesting people in Germany. The German artists are quite interesting people. They're very educated, very intellectual, and they have a great eye. They're really great painters.
Do you ever find anybody just, that you weren't planning to look for someone and someone said, oh, you should check out this person? Do you find that in your travels?
Every situation is different. Every artist came from a different avenue, from a recommendation, or I saw something on the internet, or I was walking down an aisle in an art fair somewhere and I saw something great and I tried to find who they were, or they just, it's so spontaneous, but there's no strategic pattern. And it's the most difficult part of being in the business is finding really good artists. The easiest part is selling and developing the gallery and the business and the staff and the marketing. The hardest part is finding the talent and knowing that this is going to be a winner. It's the same thing in Hollywood.
Same
finding
thing. Yeah.
Great
Good
scripts,
talent.
great actors.
What about sculptors?
Well, sculpting that's even more difficult because there's not a lot of great sculptors in the world. We're not looking for somebody that welds cart parts together and there it is. Sculpting has a lot of demands because it's very physical, especially dealing with molten bronze or steel or clay or plaster. And the physical limitations and the costs, it's cost prohibitive to work in bronze and sculpture. You have to produce a body of work and an artist could be $500,000 in the hole.
I know, my brother-in-law does it. It's very, very expensive, in Australia. How do you think that technology has affected your business?
Well, I think that before technology, all the creative forces went into painting and acting and singing. But now technology is pulling people away, like Pixar and Lucas Films and Disney. And a lot of creative young talent is going that direction because you have the comfort of a bigger enterprise, interaction with other people. There's more of a guarantee of success. You get health benefits, you get time off, you get vacation. You don't get any of that working alone in your studio, spreading petroleum on a canvas.
Right, yeah.
It's a lonely existence.
Well, it's a lonely existence, and it's also, as you say this, the financial security of being able to pay your rent and having health care by working for companies rather than doing what people used to do before technology really was doing so much animation and,
exactly.
as you say.
So a lot of great talent has gone into Pixar, but then we see all these great films, Toy Story, I mean, those are artists behind that.
Oh, of course they are. Well, and as you say, though, they're not artists that you end up finding that you can represent in your art gallery, right?
So it's a lonely experience. Think about it. You're cooped up in a studio for 6 hours alone.
I think the financial drain on people has since time memorial, right? It's a huge financial drain on people unless they're already successful and they're making money. But if you're not that successful, then it's a tough life.
Well, actually, my clients love the stories of our artists and how they became artists because it's not like they started from the cradle. I have some artists that they were big engineers for IBM and just couldn't stand it anymore. The whole predictable suburban life and going to work and working on software or whatever, and they just said, I've had enough. And they were 40 years old, and they gave up their pension and they gave up all that momentum, and they said, I just want to be a painter, and they started from scratch at 40.
Wow.
That's not easy to do, That's probably easier to do in the United States, but not in Europe.
Right, right.
To reinvent your life. And then...
That's amazing. At 40 years old, probably married with kids and all sorts of, school fees, etc. Tell us about your clientele, because I remember years ago you were saying that, your clientele buying a piece of art for a wall, and then it moved on from there. So tell us the profile of your clientele and what they do with the art they buy.
Well, I mean, the world has gotten richer in the last 20, 30 years, and what's happened is people with wealth, years ago, I used to overhear them talk about where to put the art on a certain wall in their house. And then as time progressed, it became what house to put the art in, and now it's what country to put it in. That's how far we've progressed.
Because they have so many houses across the world.
People who collect art in the higher end have multiple homes. They're well-traveled.
Yeah.
They move around. Have the wealth to do that.
Right. And so your clients are really art collectors because, as you were saying, they have private jets. You were telling me once they've got private jets, they're flying all over the place, and they're highly educated about art. And so you have art, you represent artists and sculptors who really are supplying exceptional art for collectors rather than beautiful art. So you really, your clientele is somebody who really is a collector, and that's the kind of artist that you're looking for.
Well, yeah, my clientele is so educated on so many levels because they have access to the world now. I mean, because of the internet and all the big art fairs all over the world, and everybody's emailing them art, and they've trained their eye. Mm-hmm. And what's happened is put a pressure on galleries like me to keep up. Right. If you don't have really great talent, you're not going to make it. Yeah. It's just like if you don't make wonderful food in Napa Valley, you're not going to make it
either. Right.
You last 6 months and bye-bye.
Yeah, yeah. I love what you pointed out to me about Main Street in St. Helena. Because I think, this is just what I feel, that for sure St. Helena was the epicenter of Napa Valley for a very, very long time. And I think that changed years ago to, I believe it is Yountville is the epicenter of Napa Valley. But you pointed out to me that there are so many fabulous merchants on Main Street in St. Helena. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Well, the epicenter maybe have moved in terms of attendance of tourists, maybe the number of restaurants and hotels. But the epicenter for culture is still St. Helena. Mm-hmm. You can't find the shops in Calistoga, American Canyon, Napa, or Yountville that you can still in St. Helena. I know we have a few empty stores, but we have the most zaniest stores, mm-hmm. the most unusual things. Mm-hmm. Erin Martin next to me, who actually inspired me, her store, to open a store next to her, has a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex now in her space. Yeah. It's half unique and half put together. Mm-hmm. But what merchant do you know that would take that risk?
Right.
John Anderson, who owns Woodhouse Chocolate. I mean, he made a fabulous store. He makes incredible chocolate. Mm-hmm. And so everybody's raising the bar on everybody else.
And you too, the Colville Snyder Gallery.
Well, we didn't mean to, but we strive for excellence, and so. But I think that's what makes St. Helena still unique is that unusual people want to go there and express themselves.
Right, and Kathy Buck from the.
Buck, God, what would we do without Kathy Buck at the Cameo Theater?
Yeah, the last few single-screen cinemas in the country, right?
And the oldest, but what makes it so great is Kathy. She brings in like 16 different films a month and takes the risks that, you can't make money if you keep turning films, and Hollywood penalizes you if you only keep it 3 days. Mm-hmm. So basically she's living off selling popcorn, but basically she's bringing in just a whole cadre, a wonderful kind of a cornucopia of different films that she's passionate about.
Yeah.
And she gives a little speech before every film, and we all wait for Kathy to tell us.
Oh, she's fabulous.
She's engaging, but this can only happen in St. Helena.
No, I would agree with you for sure. Tell us about the fabulous screw tops. Oh my God, you your Johnny Cash voice just like, I love it. You are so perfect. If I close my eyes, I'm listening to Johnny Cash.
Well, I'm not really a singer. I'm a guitar player in the band, but I'm like Ringo. They throw me a couple songs to play and sing. And so they gave me the Johnny Cash number, and I don't know what it is. I think it's the beat that everybody loves. It's that chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom.
It is, but you have the voice. It's amazing, amazing.
Well, people love to hear when I say, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Yes,
They wait for that line.
every time. And whenever you're performing and I have the opportunity to make a request, it's the song I always ask
Folsom
for.
Prison.
Yeah. So tell us about the band, how it came together, who's in the band, and where you play.
Well, the band started about 10 years ago, and it's made up of...
In your garage, right? I
yeah,
remember.
of course it's a garage
to go
band.
and listen.
Well, we're all professional people, and we all love music, and we have an extreme range from like 30 years old to 70 years old, and a big diversity in our assets and our education. But what brings us together is this love for music, and it's that kind of tribal feeling we all remember in the 60s, when we were pseudo hippies on the weekends or whatever. Yeah. But that feeling of getting together and creating something, the collaborative effort of making music together is quite rewarding.
Oh, yeah. As Karen says, we should all be doing something creative.
Well,
Every one of us.
I'm always encouraging people to pick up a guitar or a microphone or a piano and get going, because I started when I was 56.
Did you know how to read music?
No.
You started when you were 56?
Well, I played guitar when I was 14 for a little while, but I didn't play for 40 years.
Amazing. So where are you playing? I know you've played at Silos a couple of times.
Well, we
Napa.
play for, various large outdoor community events, Chili Ball, the Corn Roast, the Rutherford Dust Society, different organizations. We've raised money for schools and hospitals, and we're not in it for the money. There's no money in this.
No. But you guys are having a great time.
We just love to ham it up, and people love to see us because we make mistakes, and they love us for making mistakes, and we ham it up. But it's genuine,
And who's your singer? Have you still got that lovely young lady?
We have 3 amazing young female vocalists right now.
You do?
Yeah, I put them in the front so they don't see the old guys in the back.
Oh my God, I love it.
We look like the backup studio band.
Oh, so what is the next place that you're playing that we could all come and see your new members?
Well, Christy Abreu has a private party, the Corn Roast, at the Bastoni Winery, and that's about 800 people. That's a private. But the next couple days will be the Chili Ball at the Bastoni Winery on September 5th.
September 5th, the Chili Ball. Everybody remember that one.
But we play all the songs that everybody knows, from the Kinks to Blondie to YouTube to everybody, Johnny Cash, whatever.
So when I met you and Karen, you lived across the road from me on West Zinfandel Lane. So we were living in the county, and we had the county experience and running through the vineyards.
Well, we had good times back then.
It was fantastic, fantastic.
You used to come over our house and make gourmet meals.
I know.
We couldn't wait for you to come over.
I love it.
When's Latif
It's so
coming?
Fun. Oh, bless you. Thank you. But now you wanted to move into town and be on a bike and go and play bocce and just walk everywhere, and the kids walk to school. So now you're having the in-town city experience. Tell me about that, even though you're on a vineyard.
Well, what
on
happened,
half an acre.
yeah, we were on Zinfandel Lane, and it was just part-time because we still lived in San Francisco. And then we moved there full-time after 9/11, and we realized there was a game changer. Let's move to the country. It's safer, it's quieter, raise children. And what happened was I realized that these were all second homes on Zinfandel Lane, and there were no other kids. And then I realized my sons are going to grow up without friends. And nobody wanted to bring their kids to us because you had to get them in the car. And I realized I can't let my kids grow up without friends, because I remember I can get on my bike and see my friends. So we decided, well, we got to get into town and jump into it, and so they could walk to school and see their friends. And that's what happened. We found this lot, and we built a new home. And now I have sleepovers all the time. I have all these young guys.
Oh, wow.
And so you get what you wish for.
So it's fun, huh?
Well, a bunch of young guys running around the house. My wife is always painting the walls white because they're like leaving big finger marks everywhere. They love to play chase with guns. It's chaotic. You know?
Oh my God.
A bunch of young guys can damage a house pretty quick.
Yeah. But you're opposite the farmers market, which is great.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Yeah. And you're on a vineyard and surrounded by vineyards. And Andy Beckstoff is fabulous. You know, heritage vineyards there.
Yeah, the Bourne Vineyard. Yes, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky. I
Yeah.
count my blessings because we're in town, and there's so many wonderful people live in town. St. Louis is just rich with so many great characters.
Yeah.
And we go across the street and we play bocce and get into that crowd.
Yeah.
And the farmers market. I mean, we live the dream.
Yeah. It's a
you know?
totally different lifestyle to the lifestyle that you were enjoying down on Zinfandel Lane.
Well, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you see the traffic report, you see all those people, you know, jammed on the Bay Bridge trying to get to work, and you're
Yeah.
just kind of like wondering,
I'll just hop on my bicycle and get down to the art gallery.
yeah, or you know, stop at Farmstead and have a coffee and run into people and chit chat. You know,
I love it.
before I go to work. So.
Well, I miss our bike rides together, and
Oh God, that's right. I was always intimidated.
not anymore. It's been fantastic having you
Well,
on the
thank you.
show. Thank you
Thank you
so much.
The
It was
30
great.
minutes went by fast.
I know you were worried about that, weren't you?
Geez, I thought I was just
know.
getting warmed up.
When I first spoke to you, you said, I think I would need to bring someone else from the gallery with me. If it's 30 minutes, it goes so fast.
It is very fast, but thank you so much. It's always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure, dear. Thank you.
I love being with you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.